to the little podcast of good news. We're your hosts, Lauren
and Grace, and we're here to bring you everyday ideas for learning about and living out the way of Jesus in your family. So, you know how Advent starts right after Thanksgiving?
Yes, it's right up against the end of one holiday. Yeah.
Right. So, a lot of times it can take us by surprise because we're
Mm-hmm.
so busy doing Thanksgiving this week, right? So, what are some of those things that we can also do this week to prepare us so that we are ready to start right on time for Advent?
Yeah. Good question. Thankfully, this is something that it's actually come up on the podcast before when we've talked about
Yes.
particularly years when we've taken on too much, right? We've gotten a
Right.
little overzealous,
Yes.
we might say. And I remember mentioning kind of in passing the idea of a Jesse tree.
Yes, and we got a lot
We've
of
got
response
so
from
many
that.
questions,
Everybody's like,
yes.
wait, what is it? Can you tell us more?
Yeah.
So we promised that we would indeed tell y'all more about the Jesse tree.
Yeah, so definitely talking about a Jesse tree, which I think is there are so many different ways to do it that you could pull this off this week. You could absolutely start this.
Oh, for sure.
And it doesn't have to be, you don't necessarily have to go buy anything to be able to start it. This is
No.
something that that you really could get off the ground, I think, right away, right? And there's so many different ways to do it.
Yeah. So first off, a Jesse tree takes us, it's a way to take us through salvation history, like from, Genesis all the way through until the birth of Jesus, that walks us through scripturally. It walks us through all of that, and it makes it tangible and real for kids to understand. I think that that it changes year to year. Like if you looked up Jesse Tree 2025, because of the dates, because people want, let me have this start at the very beginning of Advent, and then the length of Advent changes, that sometimes extra things are thrown in there. Or not. Or, once you get it one year, you can just keep using that same one every year. It's really the same, even though people will say, oh, well, it's a little different. It's the same stories.
Yeah. And for us, it's really rare to get one of them done every single day. So to have it line up perfectly with the days that might be really important in some households, for us, I would say once a week, we're catching up on two of them because we had a different event the night before or whatever it was. So yeah, I think it's one of those where if you want to look up a very specific one to 2025, you could easily find something and kind of go from there. But the nice thing about it, like Grace was saying, it walks you through the history of the coming of Christ, starting in Genesis. And so you go through all this different scripture. And what I think makes it work so well for kids is that it's visual. It's tangible. Right. You typically have an actual tree that you are putting things on. Now, this can be as simple as we all go outside and find a really great tree branch outside. Yeah. And we bring it in, right?
Or the dollar store, or the $1.25 store these days, $1.75 store, I don't know, whatever. Yeah. You can typically get for less than $5. You can get one of those little bitty trees.
Yeah.
I don't know where we got ours that we use, but we've used the same one for years. It's kind of like a burlap sack kind of looking one. And so that's the one that we've made. Why is it called the Jesse tree?
So it's called the Jesse tree because in the prophet Isaiah, we have the prophecy that the anointed one is going to come from the root of Jesse. You can quote the scripture for us, Grace.
Yeah, a shoot shall come out of the stump of Jesse, and a branch shall grow out of his roots.
Yeah.
And the Spirit of the Lord shall rest upon him, right? So talking about Jesus is going to come from this lineage.
Yeah.
And we actually use this imagery of the rod of Jesse, like a branch from Jesse, in the antiphons that I'm going to talk about too later on. But that's another spot where we use that. So that's definitely the prophet Isaiah is bringing that out and talking about it.
Yeah, and so we have Jesse, so he's the father of King David. And then from that line of King David, we end up with, and this is always a fun part, Jesus' mother,
right,
Mary, right? And so we have that that lineage. And so it's the Jesse tree because it's referring to that scripture in Isaiah. and this being able to sort of trace the genealogy of Jesus, but then it actually goes back further than that. It goes back
Right.
into some of our figures from Genesis and that sort of thing. So it's this way to tell the scripture story starting way back when, not just starting with, okay, they're on their way into Bethlehem, which
Right.
I think is where a lot of our stories start, right?
A lot of times, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is good, to think about and stuff, but yeah, to kind of look back, even in the beginning. And so if you look up the Jesse tree ornaments, right? So you have a tree that you've gotten.
It might be a branch from outside. It might
Right.
be a dollar store tree. Again, whatever's going to work.
Yeah, it could be like a drawing
Yeah.
that you do. And then you want to have ornaments. Now, you can buy ornaments, you can make ornaments, you can print them off. I have some that I printed off years ago on cardstock, and those are the same ones that we still use
Yeah.
to this day. And I kind of like put a number on the back of each one so I don't forget which order they go in. And then they each have a scripture verse
Right.
with them that you can read and tell the story.
Right. Yeah, and you can, if you start, it's one of those things, if you start Googling it, you will just find so many
Yes.
books, so many devotionals, so many different ways to do it. In fact, after we mentioned it on the podcast, somebody we know was at a secondhand bookstore and found this book of devotionals, the Advent Jesse Tree,
Oh, no
and
way.
sent it to me and said,
Oh, that's so
I would
funny.
have just passed this up, overlooked it entirely, except I had just heard about a Jesse tree on the podcast. And so they sent it. And this one, I love this one. It's this book of devotions for children and adults to prepare for the coming of the Christ child at Christmas. And so it explains a little bit about the Jesse tree at the beginning. And then it starts with day one. In the beginning, God created the heavens and earth. And so it's just a book
that
of
makes
devotionals.
it really easy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you just have this out and you can, you can have your
That
tree
cute little
branch and
book.
your printable and do
Right.
it that way. Yeah.
Right. And you can go and read the verses,
Yeah.
or you can take your children's Bible if you
Yeah.
have a new children's Bible. I just got the Just Love
Yes. We're
children's storybook
obsessed.
Bible. Love it, love
So
it, love
good.
it. But so you can take any of those Bibles and just read that story, but it gives you ideas. So you could even have kids like draw it, or maybe you have really creative kids and you want to make them out of clay or something
Right.
like that. I know some families who do new ones every year.
Oh, neat.
Just kind of like, and that way they don't have to worry about finding them all from the year
Yeah.
before. Like that's part of like while mom reads a story, the kids are coloring it
Right.
or drawing it, that kind of thing.
And Grace, tell us a little bit. Your kids are bigger and they've done this year after year. So tell us a little bit about how you do the stories, because I think this is so interesting.
Right. Well, so now we've gotten to the point where, like you said, a lot of times we're playing catch up, and so now we pick up the picture and we go, oh, okay, this is the world. All right, I think that's creation. Who wants to tell us the story of creation? And so somebody will just say, oh, well, this is what this means. And then they get to hang it up. And then like, oh, well, this is the shell for anoint. What does the shell mean? Oh, well, the shell is for anointing. And so that's actually when I believe Samuel went and found it went to Jesse's house and like found King David and anointed him, and so recognizing the different symbols. And sometimes I have to prompt, sometimes I'm looking it up on my phone. Like, don't think that I know all of them off the top of my head when we're like, wait, what were all the stars for? What was that one
Yeah.
for? But we'll come up with it and then we'll be able to tell the story
Yeah.
ourselves.
Yeah, this is participation, not performance.
Right.
This is supposed to be a fun family. We're doing this together. We're looking up details. We're forgetting who this person's name, whatever. We got to look it up. Yeah.
Yeah. So just that ability to then pass it on,
Yeah.
and they're learning those stories. I love what was the name of that movie? The Nativity? A number of years ago, probably like 15, 20, and my older kids were little, so probably 20 years ago. Oh my gosh, that was a long time ago. That movie came out, The Nativity, and when Mary was pregnant and like she's traveling, right? And she like tells the story like to the kids of like, oh, tell us the story of God in the wind and
Yeah.
oh, God wasn't in the wind. But just that storytelling, like
Yeah.
like we're just telling these stories
Yeah.
over and over again. And the more you tell them, the more you know them.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, read them out of the Bible. If you don't know, if you need to like read it, then your kids are looking at you like, what on earth are you saying? So you can read it and go, okay, all right, here's the story, guys.
Right.
And summarize it. Like, definitely a way to do it.
Yeah. And that storytelling, that's something we're going to talk about in next week's episode with our
Yes.
guest.
Yes.
This idea of storytelling and how the Christmas story and the incarnation story is obviously such a big part of God's story.
Right.
But then we are also part of God's story. And so I love especially the idea of when your kids are big enough for them to be able to tell it themselves, right? That they've heard it read enough times, they've heard it read from different children's Bibles and whatever, that then they're able to kind of tell their own version of it, and that we're part of this storytelling tradition. We love the movie. It's a very short movie, The Small One.
Oh, I don't know that one.
It is. It's from. I think it was made in the 80s. It's Disney. It's the story you don't know until the very end. I mean, you know that it's a sort of a Christmas Advent kind of movie, but you're following the story of a little boy and his donkey the whole time, and the donkey has to be sold at the market, and he's very sad about this.
Yes.
But you were very much wrapped up in the perspective of the little boy and the donkey, and you know this is the story that's being told, and of course you get to the end, and it's Joseph who buys the donkey, and you just see a glimpse of the donkey carrying Mary, and you realize, oh, wait a second. This is part of a much bigger story.
Or the
than
story
I
of the
realized.
3 trees, or there's all the.
Yeah.
And I have the Tommy DePaolo one that's the Friendly Beast.
Oh, I don't know that one, and I love Tom.
And it's a song. So there's a song, The Friendly
neat.
Beast, but it's all the animals in the barn.
Oh, that's so sweet.
And so like what they bring
Yeah.
to Jesus.
That's wonderful. So the Jesse tree that we have started using in my household because it became such a big deal was I bought the one. It's by Anne Voskamp, who publishes a lot of books. So she made
It's
one.
a very fancy giant book, y'all.
It's worth looking on the YouTube coverage of this so that you can kind of see it. It's called The Wonder of the Greatest Gift, an interactive family celebration of Advent. And it looks it's kind of almost the size of a scrapbook. And when you open it up, a paper tree pops up. And then in it, it's really beautifully done. In it is a little book, The Wonder of the Greatest Gift.
Oh, so it's all like connected.
So it's got all the stories. It does it by date here, so you can just start at December 1st. And then it has the quote from Scripture. It has a little retelling of it.
A little short retelling.
Right.
So that's easy. So if you're pulling out a big book Bible that's hard to read. And then, look, I love this. So her book here, it's also a countdown.
Right.
It's got the countdown. And so when they're opening it up, they're opening it up, and it's the ornament that goes on for that date.
Yeah. And
so it's kind of combining
right.
the Jesse tree. And then another thing, that we've talked, that you're probably very familiar with, that everybody's familiar with, right? Are, Advent calendars.
Yeah. Yeah, and like the Christmas countdowns and all those kinds of things. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And I always try to strive to find an Advent calendar that has to do with Jesus or something.
So not Polly Pocket is what you're telling me.
I would love a Polly Pocket one. Oh my gosh, you're dating yourself.
Oh no, they still exist. That's coming back. It's all coming back,
that's
Grace.
so fun.
You can get
That's
yourself
so
a Polly
fun.
Pocket one.
A Polly Pocket one. But right, can I find one that works like this?
Yeah.
One year we did our nativity scene. It started as a countdown.
Oh, fun.
So you can sometimes get that. So if you don't have a nativity scene, so that's another thing that you should get and let the kids play with it, right? Let your kids play with it. You can move the characters around.
Mm-hmm.
So some people like to have Mary and Joseph throughout Advent, walking towards the manger. I'm more of the school of we'd set up the whole thing so they could play with it, except for baby Jesus. A lot of times we'd wrap baby Jesus up, and then that's the first gift that they open on Christmas morning. They have to unwrap baby Jesus. And we had the little people one and stuff, and so it's very fun. But we would move the wise men, and I started doing that. It was around the time that the Elf on the Shelf came out.
Yes.
And I I did not feel like I needed an elf to look at my children, to watch my children.
Wasn't for you.
Some people need elves to help them.
Mhm.
My kids were just fine because you know what? We had these crazy wise men, these kings,
Yeah.
who traveled around and did just as much mischief
Oh, did they?
as elves. And so you always had to like find the kings.
Oh,
And
that's
sometimes
fun.
they would need to rest a couple days because it was like they were traveling
Well,
very
yeah,
far.
very far, yeah.
But yeah, they like to get into mischief too, those kings.
That's funny. So our magi also move around
Yeah.
our house. Now, what's interesting though is they don't come until after Christmas.
Ooh, so that's fun.
Yeah, they travel
right.
around our house at night. They show up Christmas night. And so we wake up on the 26th and they have typically
Oh,
arrived.
I like that. That's
And
even better.
they
now.
move at night. I think much like the elf. We've never been visited by an elf. Not saying it would never happen in the future, but hasn't happened yet.
Right.
But we have been visited by the magi. And so they will move at night during the 12 days of Christmas.
That's awesome.
And they always end up
Yeah,
on-
ours would continue to move. They just
till
showed
Epiphany.
up like way early.
Well, they say that it would have taken a lot longer than just
Right.
12 days to
Right.
probably have traveled that far. So ours show up for the 12 days of Christmas, which is fun because that's part of the liturgical calendar. I think
Yes.
sometimes we sort of misunderstand or we don't, pay enough
Right.
attention to them because we're doing so many other things and then it's New Year's. And then, so it's fun that it emphasizes the 12 days of Christmas. And our magi actually show up with kind and helpful things for us to do each day
Oh,
because
so they're not as much.
they're not as
mischief-making.
mischievous. They do.
You have kinder.
They are. They do hide. They do kind of like climb things. They do, that kind of
Uh-huh.
thing. But they've always got something with them that's kind and helpful to do because that's the spirit of Christmas. God came
That's
into the
awesome.
world because of love and kindness and a way to show people this is how we live. This is how we do it.
Yeah.
And so they always leave fun, helpful things for us to do. And then on Epiphany, because we're in New Orleans, on
Yes.
Epiphany they always leave
they
out
bring a king cake?
tons of king cake, tons of purple, green, and gold things. Now that I have school age kids, they'll leave things that they can take to school to hand out to celebrate the start
Yes.
of the carnival season. So our magi come and visit. They sneak around at night for those 12 days of Christmas.
That's really awesome.
Yeah.
But that does remind me like doing good deeds. So one thing that my parents started in my house that we've done sometimes not as well, but instead of like picking like secret Santas like within the family, we pick Advent angels.
Oh, that's precious.
And so an Advent angel does good things for the other person throughout the season of Advent. So you have your secret person, and then, maybe you might make their bed, or you might write them a little card, or you might do their dishes without them knowing, right? And people have called them different things. I know
Yeah.
different families have done this kind of thing, but I always like that,
I
you can just
love
sign
that.
it AA, like your Advent
Yeah.
angel. And sometimes it's easier than other times. In our house, mom is never part of it. That way, if somebody needs help, surprising.
Oh, right.
Because the whole thing is that you're supposed to not know
Oh, who
who
your
has
angel
you.
is. Oh,
Yes, and with having so many children, like they've gotten to a point where they would rather get like one big gift from one sibling than like a whole bunch of
Yeah.
little Five Below things.
Right.
So then it turns into like, okay, that's the person that you also have as your secret Santa, right?
Oh,
For
that's fun.
Christmas. But and sometimes we've opened those presents on Christmas Eve or something. Like that'll be the present that you get to open the night before.
Yeah.
Something like that. But that's a fun way that you can do it, like when you gather for Thanksgiving. Like, pick those names and then you get to have your kids who like eat the paper so that nobody finds out who they are.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah.
Growing up, I was one of those who loved those little logic squares. And so I'd put everybody's name this way and everybody's name this way. And throughout time, I'd be like, okay, it can't be that person. Or this sister would tell me who they have. So then I know that.
Right.
Yeah. Always
Oh, that's
like
fun.
that was my goal was
Yeah.
to solve it. Right.
Yeah.
I have to win.
Yeah. Oh, that's so great.
So another thing that you could do. Okay. So if you have decorations up for Thanksgiving, right? If you had them up for Halloween, Thanksgiving, maybe you have hay laying around. So this is something that we did. Make a little cradle or a little whatever. What's it called? Like the
Manger.
manger. Yeah, the manger. That's what it's called. For baby Jesus. And you pick a doll that you're going to use as baby Jesus, right? And so just have that like ready and stored away. Um, and then have a a bucket of your hay. And as people do good deeds throughout Advent, they can take some of the hay and add it to the manger. You're
Oh,
making Jesus's bed soft.
that is so
So
sweet.
all the little good things that you do, you can just kind of add more hay, and it uses your hay that
Right.
you've had, like, so this is, oh, okay, look, it's Advent. Here's something else you can do tangible
Yeah.
to like do good things for other people.
Yeah. And if you don't have hay, you could just cut up brown and yellow construction paper and have little
Oh,
strips of paper. There's so many ways you
for
could do
sure.
this. Yeah.
Right, right. Yeah, you could totally think of other things that
Yeah.
could,
That's so
yes,
fun. I can see little ones really getting into adding those
right.
little pieces of hay.
Yes, yes. I mean, okay, now we also haven't talked about Advent wreaths.
Right. Yeah. The standard, the
That's the
traditional.
standard,
Yeah.
right? I mean, that's what most churches use
Yeah.
and stuff like that. And how good are you about using an Advent
So,
wreath?
okay, I will give myself an A+ here,
Oh,
because just given the span of time when it's Sunday, so we've talked before on the podcast about how I try to keep my Sundays so
right. That's right.
special. And so we are typically home to eat on Sunday, even if we end up having like a family dinner or something,
Yeah.
because we always do our Sunday morning breakfast. We might do our Advent wreath then, but we consistently get that Advent wreath lit on the Sundays of Advent. It is the one thing I think is really consistent at our house during Advent. The Jesse tree, we are often trying to catch up
Right.
on, but the Advent wreaths, we are pretty solidly lighting that candle each week, and then talking about sort of the theme of that week of Advent, because they just lend themselves so well to good positive conversation.
Right. And once again, you can look that up.
Oh yeah.
Most churches will have Advent wreath kits for
Hmm.
you if you don't already have that. Or they'll have some kind of activity where
Hmm.
everybody makes it. I did that once as an intergenerational activity
Yeah.
at our church where I had, okay, now everybody, like, okay, so this is round. Okay, so we're going to put greenery on it. This is what the greenery represents. So share, this memory at your table.
Yeah.
And so it would encourage everybody to talk about it and share. And then each family got to take one home.
Yeah. It would be great to do with your little circle of good news.
Oh, for sure.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's a nice, easy thing. Sometimes kids just make them out of paper too.
Oh
Like,
yeah. It doesn't
and
have to be actual candles. Yeah.
right, right. If your kids are not good with candles. I mean, speaking of candles, when my kids were talking about all the different activities that we do and that we don't do, they like to remind me that I've never let them really celebrate St. Lucy's Day as
Here we
it
go.
should be. So St. Lucy's Day is December 13th.
Hmm.
And I believe that she would bring things into the catacombs,
Okay.
I think to help people. And so in order to light her way, she would put a wreath on her head and put candles in it. So kind of like a headlamp. Like that's what I told my kids. I'm like, modern day headlamp. Just wear a headlamp.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like so that way she could see and her hands were free.
Sure.
It's just a headlamp. But they always really wanted to have a wreath on their head with candles because that is how people celebrate
It's true.
St. Lucy Day.
It's true.
If somebody walks with the wreath on their head with
These
candles.
kids are purists.
Yes, yes, yes. And her name means light.
Yeah.
But yeah, y'all know the catastrophe that would be in my house.
Yeah.
If any of my children tried to balance candles on their head.
Yeah.
As it is, we do Christmas caroling with lights.
Hmm.
A couple days before Christmas, and my kids are like they're covered in wax,
Of
like
course.
they just pour
Yes.
the wax on their hands and peel it off, like that's all they want to do. So St. Lucy Day is another light one. St. Nicholas Day is another saint
Yeah.
day during the season.
Yeah.
Do y'all celebrate St. Nicholas Day?
That's a fun one. That one always sneaks up because it's so early in December.
Yes.
Where I got really lucky was my son goes to a school where several of his classmates, their parents have moved to the U.S. from other countries. And so he has a classmate who has a parent from a country that is really great about celebrating the Feast of St. Nicholas. And so so it's always like a little reminder to me that, oh, yeah, that's right. They're going to talk about it at school. And so then we can kind of build on it at home. I've always wanted to have a more consistent practice of something with St. Nicholas Day.
Yes. So the tradition with St. Nicholas Day is on December 6th, right? You leave your shoes out
Mm-hmm.
or a shoe out, and then you'll get gold coins
Mm-hmm.
in your shoe. A lot of times these days, though, I find that St. Nicholas actually gives like gold chocolate coins.
Yeah.
Chocolate gold coins.
Easy
But
to get during Hanukkah because you can get Hanukkah gelt for that.
right,
Yeah.
right. It's all over.
Yeah.
It's all over. So yeah, my kids always leave them out. Oftentimes they'll leave out a shoe before they go to school, and then when they come back,
Oh, yeah.
St. Nicholas has come. It's because St. Nicholas used to throw give money to people.
Okay.
And they would hang up. People would hang up their stockings to dry, and so he would toss money into their stockings. That's how we get the tradition of stockings.
Okay.
Like through the window to help them to have money, especially girls to have money so they could get married, something like that. I might be mixing a number of traditions there. But, I did some, because St. Nicholas and I are pretty tight, I brought this tradition to our church one year, and a lot of those families, some families had done it before, some families hadn't.
Oh, neat.
And so, all the kids come out, and then we talked about it, and then I made them all leave one shoe in the hallway, like by the children's church space, and then everybody went back to church for the liturgy of the Eucharist and everything. And so went up on the communion rail. Each kid is just like one stocking foot and one regular shoe. And I swear everyone is going to remember that.
Yes,
they I
will.
mean, so a lot of this is like creating the traditions that they'll remember in the future.
Yeah.
And they just thought it was delightful. And then it made the other adults ask what's going on. And so then it was this whole conversation. And sure enough, after church, St. Nicholas had come and everybody had, gold coins.
Oh, they will never forget that.
Right? So it's fun. Sometimes these traditions are fun. And that, it wasn't actually December 6th because St. Nicholas is a little flexible too.
Yeah. He's got a lot of places to be at once.
Right?
So if you can kind of ease his calendar,
Yeah.
appreciates that. Yeah.
I mean, kind of however you want to do that. I know I also talked about, I mentioned the O antiphons.
Yeah.
So have
Tell
you
us
heard of the
more
O
about
antiphons?
those.
So they are December 17th through 23rd.
Okay.
In the prayer book and stuff, in the readings for those days, you'll find that those are the canticles that are sung each day. And actually, if you know that song, O Come, Emmanuel, each verse of that is one of the O antiphons.
Yeah, I can picture it in the hymnal, and there are always little dates in parentheses, italicized next to it.
This is the date that you should do this or that you should do this.
Okay.
And so that's just something fun if you wanted to get into that with your family. I mean, one, you can print off coloring pages, or, you could say, okay, this is O come Emmanuel, O come rod of Jesse. Okay, so draw a picture of what, let's listen to this verse, let's just hear it, and let's just, write about it. And it's the different names for Jesus throughout Scripture.
That's so cool.
So it's all the historical, prophesied names about the King of Kings,
that's
coming.
Neat. Yeah.
And so that's just kind of something extra fun. I mean, you obviously don't have to do all these things. These are just things that we've done over the years.
Right. Yeah. Well, especially those don't start till the 17th. You've got a window of time there.
Right.
You've got some time to get ahead on that
Right.
one. Yeah.
Right. Or if you just, even just knowing that information now, when you're oh, why are they singing different verses of this song? That's kind of a thing.
Grace, I have a question for you.
Yes.
Since you have done this many more years than I have, how do you know when to let something go?
When I can't do it.
I just think there's so much pressure on parents, and I think sometimes it
goodness.
is. I think sometimes it is worse for moms that we're the keepers of tradition, right?
Yes.
And this is, this greatness has been thrust upon us that we must keep the traditions. And there are years where something that worked before doesn't work anymore, and then you have kids who couldn't tell you what your traditions are, and you have kids who can list every single thing you've ever done and what years you did them, and so it's the last thing we want is for this to be stressful. That's the opposite of what Advent is supposed to be.
Right. Yeah, no, it is definitely not supposed to be stressful. Look at these things and go, oh, what looks like fun to me?
Right.
What sounds fun to me? I mean, people have written whole books. I have the Homemade Year by Jerusalem Jackson Greer, and she's got a whole year. And she even says at the beginning, she's like, "Okay, yes, I did everything in this book in 1 year because I was writing a book.
Right.
My kids will even tell you it's a little insane.
Right.
Like, don't
Right.
do everything, you know." And so these are things that we've done over the years. Like I think 1 year we made those, what are they called? Pomades?
Oh,
Where it's
yeah.
like an orange, and you put cloves in it,
Yep.
and it's all symbolic. There's a whole symbolism for that too. Like, so there's so many things out there. And really, like, if you want to keep it new and fresh every year, you can, and like you said, like we definitely don't do some of the things, very well. Like the Jesse tree. Like, it is not as well done as it used to be. And that's partially why I go, okay, who can tell me this story? All right, hang it up.
Yeah.
Okay, who can tell me this story? Because we have to catch up on like 4 of them or
Yeah.
5 of them. But you'll have your kids in your family who want to keep a tradition. And so then you can kind of like let them be in charge of that.
Oh, nice.
Like,
yeah.
okay, so like, all right, so this is your thing. Like, you gather us to do this. Or everybody wants to light the Advent wreath, right? They want to play with the flames. So it's like, okay, well, all right, lead us in a prayer, light it.
Yeah.
Like, so that's on you. You want to light it, you go for it, or
Yeah.
you have crafty kids who want to make luminaries. That's another tradition. You put them outside to
Yeah.
illumine the path. And so it's like paper bags that you cut out and you put candles in it, or you just put the flickering lights in it, and make way for baby Jesus. Kind of like the way that you have the bonfires on the levee.
Yeah.
I mean, like, there's so many traditions, so many things that you can do, and we're just offering all these things to you so that you can figure out what you want to do and what you want to do this year.
Right.
I think when my oldest was a baby, well, maybe like a year old, I started doing a cookie exchange. And I was like, okay, it's my first annual cookie exchange. And I did that for a long time. I did it in Indiana, then I continued it in Colorado. I did it in New Orleans. And at some point, it didn't fit in my life anymore. And I had to let it go. And it was so hard.
Yeah.
Because nobody else was like, I mean, some people were like, oh, when are you doing the cookie exchange? And then that year I was like, oh, I'm not going to be able to do it this year. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Like, no one else was holding on to this thing. It was just me. Like, this is my 15th annual
Right.
cookie exchange that I have done. I mean, and really, it
Right.
started off as like a cookie exchange for like my play group, like
Yeah.
all the moms, like, and then it changed into different things or
Yeah.
whatever. But sometimes it's like, okay, you have to let things go.
Yeah.
And that's okay. And then you have to think about it like, who cares like about it, right? Like, why are we holding on to this?
Right.
And so you got to kind of decide like, okay, what are those traditions? And yeah, like, which ones are you going to hold on to?
Yeah.
Which ones are you going to let go? I mean, even thinking the things you do now with your kids when they're little. Now think about the things that you do with your parents, right? Which of those things were traditions that have continued?
Yeah.
On Christmas Eve for like 20 something years, maybe even 30 years, my dad and one of his brothers and all of us kids would have Christmas Eve dinner together. Well, I think at some point there were too many grandkids on both sides that it was like, nope, you know what? This isn't working anymore. And so they stopped.
Yeah.
And that was like really telling because it's like, we've been doing this for over 30 years and then we're just stopping. But I mean, we still get together with them, in the evening, so then they're like, okay, so this is a tradition that we want to keep doing, right? Or my parents started the Christmas caroling around their neighborhood, and we all felt that it was so important that after COVID, when we couldn't do it, we started doing it at my sister's house and in her neighborhood because one, she can sing. So it works that she's like the leader of it. But it was a tradition that meant a lot to all of us. And I'm sure there were plenty of things that we did growing up. Like I said, like Advent Angels, things like that we did growing up that were not all still doing.
Mhm.
But like that one was something that like, okay, no, we do want to keep that.
Right.
And so you got to kind of like see what's important to the next generation and what they like to figure out, oh, okay, how easy is this going to be? Or you got this big, giant, cool book and everything where it makes, the Jessie tree super easy to do.
Right.
And now that you've done it once, or more than once, it makes it really easy, right?
Right.
So maybe even just like if you like all these ideas, add one at a time,
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Or if you're struggling with your kids like doing nice things, then like do the hay because okay, we need my children to be nicer. Like
Right.
they need that motivation to not be sassy or whatever, like do that. Like
Yeah.
all the things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Grace,
Yes.
Advent sneaks up right after Thanksgiving.
It does. It does.
What can we do to prepare for this time of preparation? What's the good news?
The good news is you still have a week before it starts. Or not quite a week, but you have a number of days and I bet you're off work for some of those days. But the good news is there's so many ways that you can celebrate Advent with your family to really make it a special time.
That is good news.
That is good news. So be sure to get your box of good news on the website, littleboxofgoodnews.com. Look, Black Friday's coming up. You want to buy something, go on there and just buy a whole bunch of these. Get subscriptions for like everybody that you know.
Yeah.
It's great. The cost is going strictly to making these boxes. We make them all in-house and everything. We have different levels of how much it costs based on what you can afford. So don't stress out about that. But it really is a gift that we'll keep giving. It's a gift for the whole family. It's a gift. It makes the opportunities for connection.
Yep, it sure
for
does.
sure.
Be sure to rate, review, and subscribe to this podcast. Follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube at Little Box of Good News. Till next time.
Bye.
The Little Podcast of Good News is a ministry of the Little Box of Good News. The hosts are Lauren Dunn and Grace Rose. This podcast has been edited by Cyril Rose and is produced by the Episcopal Diocese of Louisiana. For more from the Episcopal Diocese of Louisiana, please visit us at edola.org.